One of the more underappreciated jobs in the sport of boxing is the timekeeper. It's just a given that the bell will ring and when it's supposed to, but it's not a job that everyone can do. It takes a special skill set, one that the next inductee has and then some. He was born on November 14th, 1940 in Garfield, New Jersey. He fell in love with boxing at an early age. When he came to Florida in 1998, he was encouraged to apply to be an inspector with the Florida State Boxing Commission. 6 months later, he was hired as an inspector, but in 2003, his life would be altered. He suffered a heart attack and found himself unable to constantly climb up and in and out of the ring. He was encouraged to become a timekeeper, which would allow him to continue to work in the sport that he loved, but from a ringside seat. It proved to be a pretty good career move. He would spend the next decade and a half working some of the biggest fights in the state of Florida. More often than not, when the big fights and big networks rolled into Florida, he would be there in charge of the bell. It wasn't just his work as a timekeeper that made him special and memorable to those of us that worked with him. You see, when he worked, he always had the back of the rest of his officials. He did so many of the little things at ringside that you often take for granted, but they added up to be quite a lot. Things like making sure there was power at ringside for the commission, the media, and even the ring announcer. He made sure there were towels, always brought a huge cooler of bottled water. He would entertain people at ringside with magic tricks. And of course, he would always bring 2 or 3 tubs full of candy. And it just got to be a habit. When I saw Bill was working a show that I was working, I'd just walk over and have myself some candy, my pre-fight dinner. And every time he showed up, I'd walk over and see the candy, and I'd say, "Hey, the candy man's here." It just stuck. Everybody started calling him Candy Man. He continued to serve until his retirement in 2012, in which he was honored by the Florida State Boxing Commission for his years of service to the sport he was dedicated to and loved. And last night, if you were at the gala dinner, he stepped out of retirement one more time to serve as timekeeper when we honored those who've passed away in the last year, and did a phenomenal job. You still got it, guy. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, class of 2017, timekeeper Bill Anello.
You have to excuse me if I'm a little wobbly. They found I had a brain tumor that's not operable. So I make the best I can. The one thing I found out about any job is to do the best you can. Be the best. And of course, you always have to have someone to help you along the way. I had that person. He taught me exactly how a timekeeper should operate. I've worked with him, and it became second nature. If he was thinking about calling time, I already had it done. When he was ready to go time in, the bell rang. It was time back in, let's fight. The one person, like I say, you have to have someone with you. And George, Alonzo, I thank you for all your help. And of course, you always got to remember one thing. You got to have a guy that gives you a nickname. I mean, the Candy Man. They found out one thing about me. The Candy Man does what he wants. I've had that situation where the chief inspector got us all together and says, we are professionals. We do not ask for autographs. When he got finished with his speech, I grabbed my pen, I walked over to Brown Sugar, and I asked her for her autograph right in front of him. The only thing he could do was shake his head, because I am the Candy Man. I do things my way. And I'll tell you one thing, gentlemen, and it is an honor to be inducted with you all. And Winky, I did some of your fights, and it was a pleasure. And to you two, it is definitely an honor. I could never consider myself being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I really don't know what to do. I thank you all.